It is the morning sports desk for Monday, March 18th. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Corey Tackman, the co-host on this program. Corey, a big weekend for you. You got St. Urho's Day and St. Patrick's Day. How's that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, could you when you combine the two on a weekend like that, purple beer on Saturday, green beer on Sunday, um a couple of naps thrown in the mix, some players championship golf on TV, some state girls basketball to tune into. It's like this weekend had it all.
St. Urho's Day has a special place in my life, and it's not even really with stuff around here, Corey. It was more for when I worked in Duluth. It was around this time because it was St. Urho Day, and a town, Finland. I
Mhm.
went to Finland for St. Urho Day. Not like Finland, but Finland, Minnesota, which is
Of course.
like an hour north of Duluth. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like it's up the shore, but not like on the shore. It's like up the shore an hour and then like 20 minutes west into the Arrowhead.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, cool. I've never been here before. All I had was one of my weekend anchor telling me, you'll enjoy it. Like basically just kind of gave me that. And I didn't know what to make of that. So I was like ready to drive in. There's like a parade. It's like a 1-day little festival for St. Urho Day. And I drive in, not really knowing what to expect. You know, it's going to be my whole story for the day. It's my big piece and I'm going to do a lot on it. And I'm like, pulling, and I don't know what to expect until I pull into town. And Finland, if you don't know, is a one road town in the middle of nowhere. And I immediately had gotten like flashbacks and I looked and I was like, oh, I'm in Nimrod. Like that's where I am
Mhm.
because everything felt so familiar. So obviously Nimrod has their Jubilee days and Labor Day weekend, and my family has some land just outside of Nimrod, and that'd be my end of summer thing every year. We'd all go camp at their place and like go to the parade, and so I kind of know what that vibe is like around Nimrod days. And I get there for that, and I don't mean that in like a bad way. I mean that as in like it's just a town in the middle of nowhere that's got a population of under 100, but all of a sudden there's dang near 1,000 people all kind of crowded in this one area having themselves a day for St. Urho. And that's how I remember St. Urho Day forever now, is because of Finland, Minnesota, in that one lane town. And I just remember that gut feeling of driving in. And I came back and they're like, how was it? And I was like, oh, it's fine. I've been in that environment plenty of times. Like they thought they were going to throw me through a loop at the TV station. I'm like, nope. Nimrod, Minnesota prepared me for that. So
Nimrod, Minnesota prepares you for a lot of things in
it,
life.
it prepares you for a lot of things in life. All have helped me out in life. So shout out Nimrod. There you go. There's your
So
shout out St. Urho. Shout out everybody.
so this is like right the Finnish triangle around here.
Right.
But that is the other part of the world that isn't Finland, that has a huge population of Finlanders. I was in a singing group in, I guess it was after college, but we were in Winona, and we got invited to sing in Thunder Bay. And Thunder Bay has the largest population of Finnish people in the world outside of Finland. So we sang at the Paul Schaefer Theater, like Paul Schaefer from the Dave Letterman show.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he grew up. He's
Oh,
from
really?
Thunder Bay.
Okay.
And so we sang in this beautiful Paul Schaefer Theater on a Saturday. And then on a Sunday, we sang at a church service. And it was a dual church service, an ELCA Lutheran. And the first service of the morning was in English. And then the second service was an all Finnish Lutheran service that we sang at. It was awesome, just an awesome experience. And then, yeah, to move to this area and have it be so important. I love it. I love it. I think it's a really fun day. It's fun to see all those festivities, and I'll dress up in purple on Saturday and in green on Sunday every weekend if that's what I got to do.
Well, one day you're squashing grasshoppers, and the next day you're squashing snakes. That's pretty much all you got to do. Because our St. Urho video on the Superstation K106 Facebook page, I just kept getting buzzes all weekend long. It was just getting people love it. So good job, Daryl, who read the Ode to St. Urho.
That he did that like 2 or 3 years ago now, and
Mm-hmm.
every single year it gets a repost, and every single year people just like, oh, you sound just like your dad. It's awesome.
Everybody
it's
kind of
perfect.
forget it exists, and then it pops up again. You're like, oh, right. And yeah, so that's anyway, that was a weekend thing. And that just, I know it's a little tangent before we get into the sports stuff, and there's a lot to talk about, but yeah, that was a good, I wanted a chance to tell the story on the program, and it looks like we're right into it now. So outside of St. Erho Day and St. Patrick's Day over the weekend was the Minnesota State High School League Girls Basketball State Tournament. Of course, Wednesday night, I called the Perham Providence Academy game. Perham lost 94-84 to the eventual state champion. And I got this wrong last week on the podcast. So Providence Academy did win last year. In fact, they won the year before as well. So they three-peated in 2A girls basketball. Providence Academy's been rolling. Of course, Madden Greenway, a big reason why. She has a sister, I think, named Beckett, that's like an eighth grader on that team.
Yep.
And they have Peterson girl who's on the team. They have a couple, I mean, they're just loaded. But Madden Greenway, seeing her live, and she has been the most talked about player, not just in 2A, but in all of girls high school basketball this year, she's good. And the reason she's good is because I didn't really feel like when I was calling that game for Perham and Providence Academy, there was no point where like she just took over. It's not like her team funneled her the ball every single time and she just had to go make a play. And it was like, okay, cool. They've done a nice job stopping her. And then I look up and she has 30 points. And she finished the game with 49. And she got to the free throw line like 25 times in the game, dang near 30. Like, all of a sudden and that's how you know somebody's good, is you don't even realize how good they are until you look up and you go, whoa, they are pretty good. Like, they are good. And of course, I know you have your observations of Madden Greenway, but I thought Perham did just as good of a job as they could in that game. Obviously, they got the worst possible draw. They wanted, they could have made a case to be ranked, and they gave Perham gave Providence Academy everything they could handle in that game. Providence Academy led the entire way, and they got a leads up to like 12, 13 points. But there was a point in the second half, Corey, with like 5 minutes to go, where Perham got it to within 2. And I thought they could, like, sometimes you have it where it's close and you're like, yeah, like it's close, but there's no way that this other team's losing. There's a while there was like, Perham's got a chance to win this. Like, they were playing well. It felt like they were trying to grab things from Providence Academy. It felt like they kind of were trying to figure things out. And the thing that got Perham rebounding, Providence Academy had the slight edge. Assist, slight edge for Providence Academy. They scored 94 points and Perham scored 84. Like, that was just a high scoring game at the end. But the real thing that got Perham was towards the end of the first half. They just turned the ball over off of a press. Providence Academy didn't press all the time, but when they did, you found out Madden Greenway was the daughter of Chad Greenway, because she was not afraid to get up and get in the faces of the Perham ball handlers and try and get after it a little bit. And Perham ended up losing the turnover battle, I think 18-8. So you're minus 10. And in a game like that, where you lose by 10 points, that's 10 extra possessions you gave the other team. But I thought Perham, they shot the lights out. They shot like 60% from the field, 40% from 3, like 75 plus from the free throw line. They played about as well as they could have. And they just lost to a team that was better. But that's not a detriment to Perham. They gave Providence Academy everything they could handle in that one.
Yeah, it's funny when games like that where they're close, and there's these like arbitrary kind of checkpoints that happen throughout the game. But they happen, it matters on the game, right? Mm-hmm. And you can kind of feel it like, oh, if this thing happens by this time, we could see something weird happen here, right? Like, oh, okay, they're down by 2. If they can get a stop and a bucket and tie it up, now we're talking about if they can get the lead in the next 90 seconds, hey, we might have something weird. And then you look up and 90 seconds later and the other team's up by 7 again. And I'm not saying that was exactly how this game worked out, but there's moments like that in every game where it starts to get close, and a team that is not supposed to win by all accounts is threatening. And you can just like, oh, if this happens, then we're really talking about something interesting. And then you get to another, oh, by 3.5 minutes, if we can get it to here, holy buckets, hold on to your hat. And then what oftentimes happens is the 1 seed goes, nah, we're going to get a turnover and a bucket. We're going to get a stop and a 3. We're going to get another stop and have good ball movement and get a wide open layup. And then you look up and you're down by 9 again. You just go nuts. It can happen that quickly. Greenway, though, you got to see her in person. I just got to watch her on TV. She's a human wrecking ball of a basketball player.
Yes.
She is so physically powerful. And it stands out. It shines even on the TV screen. And her first step is lightning fast. Lightning faster than everybody else I saw, anybody else all weekend in that AA tournament. She gets around and by anyone she wants to, whenever she wants to.
Mm-hmm. That's how she played. And they're just a good team, and she's the centerpiece of that team. And it's just overall just was that game. I mean, she finished with 49 points. She's good. Like, there's no other way to put her around. I think we've basically gotten that point across. And I'm sure everybody who wanted to watch saw her play a little bit and made their own inferences and things, but that's how that game turned out. Obviously, Providence Academy, they played Crosby Ironton. The Rangers didn't quite give them as much of a scare as Perham did, and they advanced on and Albany gave them everything they could handle. Albany led for the entire game except for the final 10 seconds, which were the most important part of the game, and Providence Academy was able to win. So it was overall a really fun 2A girls tournament. Perham got one more game. They played New London Spicer, who lost. They were the 4 seed coming in. They lost to Crosby Ironton in the 4-5 game right after the Perham game on Wednesday night. And so they played Thursday night from the Gangelhoff Center at the University of, or at Crookston, Concordia University.
You'll get it. There it is.
Keep flying through. I got to fly through NSIC teams. Hold on. Wait until I get to Wayne State. So Concordia St. Paul was down there. See, I got Concordia Moorhead thrown in there, and I got Crookston. I got everywhere. Willow Thiel's going to Crookston. That was what's on my mind. Willow Thiel, by the way,
terrible save, by the way. You don't get credit for trying to save it that way.
I don't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's where we're gonna go. She had 34 points, by the way, in the game against Providence Academy, and then had another nice game. Finished with like 28 points, 25 against New London Spicer. New London Spicer, of course, is a team that's synonymous with 2A girls basketball, and Coach Dreyer's been there, I think, 43 seasons. So it's just a machine down there. And what they do well is they play defense, and their season average for points allowed was 40.9. Corey, Perham scored 41 in that game. And the Perham, I thought they played a good game defensively. Perham played great defensively. They were getting turnovers. They were getting shots up. And I can't remember what the final score was. It was, around a 15-point margin. Perham played defense well enough to win that consolation semifinal game. But New London Spicer just played a little bit better defense in that one. They had a great game plan to stop what Perham wanted to do. It was a bit of a 2-3 zone, and those 3 girls kind of stood back and protected things down low. The top 2 girls were everywhere around the 3-point line, and they left open kind of that upper part of the lane around the free throw line. But anytime Perham would get the ball in there, they'd collapse. And basically they'd bait them into it. And Perham didn't want to take the bait, obviously. And they just couldn't quite get that outside shooting game where they wanted it to be. Willow took a little bit to get going. She still had a nice game. But it's just one of those things where turns out when you get to the state tournament, everybody is good. And that's Perham, I thought, played 2 good games. They just ran into 2 teams that are also good. And that's the thing about the state tournament. Those are 2 of the best games I saw all year long. We're down in the state tournament, and that's how it should be. And overall, it's not the way shape or form should they have felt bad about how things went at the state tournament, because they play great.
Okay, let's do just a vibe check on the girls' state basketball tournament in general. You've been to the state boys basketball, I'm assuming, a couple times in your life at least. Girls basketball's got a little different vibe. I really like the state girls basketball tournament.
Sorry, I cut out, Corey. What did you say?
What did you think of the state girls basketball tournament just in general? Let's vibe check state girls basketball.
It was fun. I mean, I got to call a first game ever at the barn. which was cool. The last time I'd been there was when Henning went. I just went as a fan to go watch when they played on the COVID year. So I got to watch them play that first round game. But overall, that was the first time I'd been to a state girls basketball tournament. This was the second time. And to get to watch some of the games going on before and the vibes, the barn is just a great place to have these state tournaments because it's a big venue. It can hold a lot of people, but also it gets loud really quick. And overall, it's just good basketball. And the amount of times I heard people say as I walked from my spot on the floor to the parking lot to go to my hotel was hearing people go, that's why everybody's at the state tournament. Like there's so much good basketball. There's so much of a vibe down there. The towns are crazy. I watched in the 3A consolation semifinal, Rock Ridge, which Ely, Virginia, two schools that are bitter rivals everywhere. And now that school is consolidated to one school district. And they were playing in the 3A consolation game and they played Totino Grace and they just mauled them. And that place got loud at Concordia St. Paul. It was like, you may get knocked out of that main bracket, but people do not care. They want more opportunities to keep watching their team and keep watching their team play good basketball. My ears hurt after that because I had to sit right in front of the Rock Ridge fans waiting for that game to get done so I could call the Perham New London Spicer game. It was just fun. It was great. And obviously, like, I worked up in Duluth, so I didn't know names or anything, but I just remember like hearing that part of the world and that stuff and the rivalry that those two schools had. And now their motto is like fiercely together or fiercely united or something like that. And that's true. They got loud and they blew that gym open for them. Overall, it's just the state tournaments are always fun. And this was another fun one.
That is, as an aside, that Rock Ridge thing is like one of the all-time great success stories in the state of Minnesota for consolidation and coming together. That's an entirely different conversation that we don't need to have, but it is special what those two communities decided to come together to do, because there are communities who have been consolidated for nearly 30 years who still don't like each other.
Right.
And so it's just awesome that they were able to do that. But anyway, state boys basketball is this week. We once again have a number of area teams. Very quickly, CJ, if you don't mind, I'll just run through in the Class A tournament. State boys basketball at the Target Center, 1:00 on the 21st. What is that, Thursday? Nevis Tigers are a 5 seed. They'll take on Mountain Lake area Comfrey. And West Central area earns the 2 seed. They'll take on Heritage Christian Academy. Heritage Christian Academy, one of the random draw teams. The number 1 seed, by the way, is Cherry. And we've all heard about
goalie Gopher commit Isaac Asuma.
Yeah. He's just incredible. In the 2A bracket, Breck is the number 1 team. Pequot Lakes earns a 4 seed. They'll take on the 5 seed Minnehaha Academy. Albany is the 2 seed. They get Jackson County Central. Pelican Rapids gets a random draw. They'll take on the 3 seed Lake City. In the 3A tournament, the number 1 seed there is Totino Grace. They get Stewartville. Alexandria area, the Cardinals earn a 3 seed, and they will take on Minneapolis South. So those are kind of our area teams, area schools at the state boys basketball tournament this week. Remember, the 4A, 3A, and 2A quarterfinals are on Wednesday. The Class A quarterfinals are on Thursday. Wayzata, the number 1 overall seed in the 4A tournament.
And by the way, to go back to the girls tournament for 1 second, they did announce the all tournament teams. And there's 7 local girls basketball players from Underwood, Crosby, Ironton, Albany, Alexandria area. Go look at that list. It's up on our website right now, WadenaRadio.com, or the Superstation K106 app. You can go see that list. Of course, some familiar names on there as well. And it also has a link to go look at the full all tournament team for the state girls basketball tournament there. And congratulations, by the way, to Underwood, Walker, Hackensack, Akeley, Alexandria area on that girls bracket as well for getting down there and getting to have their seasons continue as well. But yeah, the boys tournament's coming up now, Corey. This is going to be a fun one. Obviously, West Central area rightfully getting that 2 seed, I think. And it should overall just be another fun tournament. I don't really have any expectations for what's going to happen, but all I know is that it's going to be, Pequot Lakes drawing Minnehaha Academy will be a very interesting matchup just with the history of basketball that they've had. Alexandria area going to be down there. And of course, we know like the talk about their team and the talent that they have. It's going to be another fun boys basketball tournament. And I'm going to be busy for a lot of Saturdays, so I can't quite watch a lot of the championship stuff, but I'm going to be really intrigued to watch the first and second round action this week.
Sticking with high school sports really quickly, CJ, today is week number 2, beginning of week number 2 of practice for track and field and softball. But because it's week number 2, that means baseball and golf officially hit the practice field today. Actually, probably in a gym. It's a little cool today. So good luck. We're officially underway with spring sports. Good luck to those area teams and another spring sports season. We're talking about games on a schedule, CJ. I believe there's regularly scheduled softball stuff for next week, Tuesday. And with that being the case, I'd imagine there's some track and field maybe this weekend, like an indoor meet. Isn't there one at Bemidji always?
Bemidji
really
always
early
hosts
in the season.
Yeah, they always host like one and potentially a second one, depending on how the spring goes weather-wise. But yeah, I'm not sure when that's coming up. But like you said, it's always a very early in the season to kind of just get everybody going a little bit, so they can at least get a meet in the books. But yeah, right. You mentioned baseball and softball starting today officially with practice, and of course. Or baseball starting today. Softball started last week. But of course, there's going to be snow this week. Not like lasting snow, but just snow. So as soon as we turn that page on a very warm basketball season, baseball season comes up, and then the weather's like, you know what? Baseball hold off a little bit longer. So we'll see how that situation plays out. But yeah, it'll be fun. So congratulations to all those teams on getting started. And as they say in high school spring sports, let's do those high school spring sports. So speaking of brackets, we talked about the boys basketball bracket, the girls basketball bracket for high school. It's time, Corey, for the NCAA tournament bracket. And if I had a little soundboard in front of me, I'd play up the CBS Sports theme. It's like, ba-na-na-na, bum, ba-na-na. No theme hits harder. Like for the NFL on Fox or the MLB on Fox or the NFL on CBS, nothing hits harder than the March Madness theme that CBS has. With the trumpets just going the ba-na-na-na, bum, bum, ba-na-na. Like that thing gets me going every single time, like in the mood to watch college basketball. It's great. So to get to hear that last night, the brackets are set. Obviously there's some reservations about what teams got in, but overall, who cares? That means the most important thing is time to fill out some brackets, and the Superstation K106 has a way to help out with that.
Yeah, it's called Bracket Mayhem. It's presented by the Liquor Depot in Staples. The bracket and your opportunity to fill it out live now at WadenaRadio.com. And we got lots of stakes. By the way, shout out Liquor Depot. They helped us out with our football picks during the season, and they're now back on board with the Bracket Mayhem Challenge. Fill out your brackets. The top local bracket will win a $100 gift card to the Liquor Depot in Staples. And that, by the way, obviously you have to be 21 plus for that. But a perfect bracket could get you a chance at $1 million. And that is wide open for anyone and everyone. And obviously bragging rights will go along with it. I'll fill out a bracket. You will. Zeke will. Kyle will. I think we're going to get the Liquor Depot to fill one out as well. And we got a lot of smack talking that's going to happen. You have until Thursday. First game tips off at 11 Thursday morning. And if that's not right, just know that you have until the first game tips off to get your bracket filled out. So do it. It's all at WadenaRadio.com. Shout out the Liquor Depot and Staples. Go see them and enjoy some games this weekend in part and in help with the Liquor Depot and Staples.
It's going to, bracket. Like, I can't wait to watch 3 games of college basketball and then pick my bracket solely based on vibes. And that's pretty much what everybody does, doesn't it? It's like, what team am I feeling? What team do I recognize? St. Peter's is back in the tournament. Remember them from a couple of years ago? The Peacocks, they're back. They have a chance to possibly play Purdue, which would be the funniest thing ever if they played them and beat them again. So I think is how that bracket worked out. Indiana State the Sycamores did not get. They get every 40 years, they get a once-in-a-generational white basketball player that just captures the nation. He did not get into the NCAA tournament this year. Our generation's Larry Bird is playing in the NIT instead. Same with the Gophers, by the way. But it's just, brackets are fun. They're great. It's going to be some great smack talk. Just go fill the bracket out now, and then we're good. And then we can, even if you can't win the certificate, if you're not quite old enough, at least just get on here. We'll mention you on the show. We'll mention how great you're doing and all that good stuff. So WadenaRadio.com, Superstation, K106 mobile app are great ways that you can set up your bracket and your picks.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah, sure.
We, when I started dating my now wife, okay, we had just started, we'd just been dating for whatever. We started dating like that September, whatever it was, comes around to March, this week in March. I love college basketball. I love March Madness. I forgot that it was the first day of March Madness. It was just a Thursday, and I decided at that time, you know what? I'm going to go over. It's Pirates Den now, but it was Bullseye at the time. I'm going to go over to the Bullseye for a little lunch. And I got nothing else going on this afternoon. Let's go over there. And I sat down as the first game was tipping off, and I forgot that it was the first day of March Madness. And at 3:00, I had to call my newfound girlfriend and be like, I'm drunk. Will you come sit with me? I completely forgot. I sat down. It was just the happiest action ever. I sat down and I looked up and there were games on all the TVs. And I was like, this is the best. This is the best ever. And after a few of them, I was like, this is going to be, I
need some help.
She doesn't need to drive me home. I need to sit here for a while though. And I could use some company.
Right.
So anyway, she still married me. So it's not all bad.
You didn't scare her off quite yet.
I didn't scare her. No, September to March, that was enough stretch to convince her that wasn't a reason to run away. I've done other dumber things than that, but yeah, it was hilarious. I was like, I gotta be here for another hour. So anyway, that's my recent, that's my most recent, that was like, close to 10 years ago now, but that one got away from me.
So let's finish up the sports desk talking about the Minnesota Vikings.
Sure.
Because on Friday, like a Friday news dump, I remember because I woke up the morning at my hotel. I got done I did my Wolverines weekly interview remotely and was like getting that all ready to like finish up. And I was in the hotel room just like getting ready to brush my teeth. And all of a sudden I look at my phone and it pops up and I see a tweet from like Adam Schefter or something like that pops up and it says trade. The Minnesota Vikings have made a trade with the Houston Texans to get the 23rd overall pick in this year's draft. So the Vikings now have 2 first-round draft picks, and basically Minnesota gets pick number 23 and pick number 232. So like a 7th-round pick. Houston gets the Vikings' 2nd-round pick this year, the Vikings' 2nd-round pick next year, and a 6th-round pick, which means the Vikings now have 2 first-round draft picks. And also, if you look, there's a chart where you like determine the value of draft pick. Teams still use this or a variation of this. It's called the Jimmy Johnson draft chart, which says the number 4 overall pick is worth this pick and that pick. Like, it's trying to find a way to determine what the value is, kind of make a universal system to help teams kind of base things off of. If you were to strictly package the number 11 pick, which is what the Vikings have, and the number 23 overall pick, Corey, that would equal, just on that alone, the number 4 overall pick, which is the Arizona Cardinals, who are a team that's looking to trade down and would guarantee the Vikings one of the top 4 quarterbacks in this draft. But according to recent reports, but it's not for nothing, the Vikings have been talking with the New England Patriots to try and move up to get the number 3 overall pick and guarantee the Vikings one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. Corey, it feels like the Vikings are going to take a quarterback and trade up for one, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, unless there's some like bigger scheme in play where they're just collecting. They're just collecting a bunch of stuff. That is, that's, you just have to mention that, I suppose, as the disclaimer. But yeah, it does seem like they're gonna they're gonna try to make the move. The real question that comes from this is, I think you can remove Caleb Williams from the table.
Yep.
Which of the three guys or four remaining quarterbacks that are kind of the names in all of this? Not who do you think they're going to pick? Who do you want them? Who's the guy? Who's the guy you want the Vikings to move up and do this for?
So we always talk about, like in the NFL, there's no like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, 5 quarterbacks. It's always like a tier. Like, what kind of tier of quarterback are you in? And in this draft class, there's Caleb Williams, who's 1 of 1. He's in that. He's going to go number 1 overall. The next tier seems to be Jaden Daniels out of LSU, the Heisman winner this year, and Drake May out of North Carolina. Those are in that next tier. The next tier, in and of his own, and maybe like a tier 2B to the 2A of Daniels and May, is JJ McCarthy out of Michigan. So he's kind of like 4th on that list by everybody's count, but in that, it could be considered in that same tier, but likely will be the 4th quarterback taken. And then the next tier down is like Penix and Bo Nix. And that's, out of all the quarterbacks that are rumored to go in the first round, it's those 6. And like Nix and Penix are like back end of the first round. So if you think the Vikings are just going to stay put and keep the 23rd overall pick, maybe that's the one that they used to take a Penix or a Nix or whatever. Like, that's kind of around where they'll go. The Vikings likely wouldn't take one of them at 11. That'd probably just be too far. But who I would want the Vikings to take. So now that I've established kind of where I think they all kind of rank, if the Vikings are going to trade into the top 3, it means they're getting either May or Daniels. If they go to 4th, they still could get either of those two, but it's probably more likely that JJ McCarthy would fall. And it feels like if the Vikings get to 4, that it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 in quarterbacks, and the Vikings just kind of take who's left out of that 4. But who I want the Vikings to draft is Drake May, because I think the way that, if you look at Kevin O'Connell and the system of quarterbacks he's worked with big arm quarterbacks that like to throw over the middle of the field. It's all about timing and kind of route combinations with Kevin O'Connell. When you've looked at the quarterbacks he's worked with in Matthew Stafford in Los Angeles and Kirk Cousins, those are guys, obviously there's a little bit more mobility with Stafford, but those are guys who stand in the pocket, have a big arm, and like to throw over the middle of the field. And Drake May fits that description. Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams, but for the rest of the quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels is more of a scrambler. He's more of a playmaker. He's more, he likes to run around. He takes a lot of hits, big hits that would scare me off, I think, a little bit more than May. May has a little bit more of that Brett Favre-ian, like, he's going to make a throw and you're like, what the heck were you thinking, kind of a deal. But that also might put him in the Stafford category of like, he's going to launch a ball into a window and you go, what were you thinking? And that's kind of the knock on him. But I think Drake, right, exactly. I think Drake May has the arm talent that's better than Daniels. I think Daniels has more of a playmaking ability. But that being said, I think playmaking ability is important, but also you're throwing the ball to Jefferson and to Hawkinson and to Addison, and you have Aaron Jones as your running back now. And I think if you look at a guy who can make all the throws in the NFL, I think it's Drake May. And I think if the Vikings could have their pick, I would persuade them to take Drake May. That being said, if they took Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy, I can give you a rational justification for why each of them would work as quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, I want you to help me work something out in my head, because I legitimately don't know. But I if this conversation goes the way I think it will, I have a counterpoint.
Okay.
What is the difference, scouting report wise, between Jaden Daniels and Anthony Richardson, who went to the Colts last year?
So that's an intriguing point, because the Vikings were linked to want to take Anthony Richardson, who does not fit the typical mold that we talked about if you look at Matt Stafford and Kirk Cousins that Kevin O'Connell's had to coach at a high level. I think basically Jaden, and I'd have to look at things again, like just to double check, but I think kind of off the top of my head, Daniels is probably more of like a scrambler, and he's a little bit more like electric when he gets out and runs and can do a little bit more plays that way. Richardson, I think, has the better arm out of him, and I think Daniels has a good arm, but I think it's just, Daniels is one of those late bloomers who kind of all like he played at Indiana before, he transferred to, and if you're Anthony Richardson, he was a guy who was like a 1-year bloomer as well. Like he had one really kind of full year of putting on good tape in college before going to the NFL. So I think Richardson is the better NFL arm, whereas Daniels has a little bit more of that playmaking, get out of the pocket and try and make things happen. Richardson has that. I would draw the line, but obviously, more research withstanding.
Well, yeah, and I think that's fair, and that is, I think, probably a fair representation. I think they're both kind of specimens.
Mm-hmm.
They're built different, and I don't mean hashtag built different. They're built differently from each other, but because of that interest, I know the Vikings had in a physical specimen in Richardson a year ago. I would just wonder if Daniels brings up that same sort of intrigue because he's going to be so much different than what a Drake May is going to bring and what Kevin O'Connell is normally had to work with. We know the Vikings game is not like a huge point of emphasis under Kevin O'Connell. They made a nice signing. They're going to figure out ways to use Aaron Jones, whatever. But like, can the quarterback be a part of the run scheme? That might be a part of this conversation and open up a world. It flamed out in a hurry, but it was pretty special what Dobbs did for 6 quarters.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was more wide open than we had seen a Vikings offense be. Could that be a little tease as to what something like Daniels could bring to the table? Would be my only counterpoint. I don't know that I have a preference, to be perfectly honest with you.
Right. And I think whoever Kevin O'Connell wants, because it'll be Kevin O'Connell and Josh McCown is in that room. Like whoever Kevin O'Connell wants to work with, I would say, okay, if you think you can work with that guy, then that's your guy. Like we'll try and get him for you. And I think too, because there's obviously the thing of new quarterback coach, Josh McCown. He was the high school head coach of Drake May, or one of the coaches on the staff. So there's a connection there. I think even too with Josh Dobbs running around, that was Dobbs running around an offense built for Kirk Cousins. Like give Kevin O'Connell a whole offseason to set up an offense for a running quarterback, because there's only so much you can do in the middle of the season because there's still 10 other guys who are involved in the offense. You can't just move everything. So like having a whole offseason to kind of build your offense around a Jaden Daniels would be very intriguing as well. So it's a lot of things to think about. We'll have a lot more conversations on this. The draft is still over a month away. It's like 5 weeks out still, but a lot can happen. A lot of people are like panicked that the Vikings haven't made that trade yet for a quarterback, but that's okay because everybody's worried that the Broncos or the Giants or some other quarterback needy team is going to make an offer and get to number 3 or number 4 and jump the Vikings. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think that other teams, there's no reason for teams to make that trade now. As much as the Vikings maybe want to trade with the Patriots or the Cardinals to get that pick and get it done with, the other teams probably saw the Vikings make that trade and go, okay, all right, Vikings. Yeah, we know you want to trade with us, but let's just take a few days and let's wait to see if Denver is going to give us 5 first-round picks or something like that. Like teams are in no incentive to get things done early. It always happens kind of at the last minute. So, who knows, maybe 10 minutes after we finish recording, they'll make a trade. But
if you're Arizona, there's no rush to give it up.
Right.
Like, if anything, the Vikings have now set the standard for what it's going to take to get there. So somebody now gets to the Vikings are in a really great spot because no matter what, even if they do nothing, they have the 11th and 23rd pick. They're going to get some really fine players out of this situation, hopefully. So they're in a really good spot. They just, you know what? Somebody else wants to force the issue. Cool. Let them. We'll be just fine. As a matter of fact, we now have spots that people can trade up into which means maybe we can still get a JJ McCarthy, or we can get that D tackle or corner or whatever. Somebody can trade up with us, which will allow us then the opportunity to get a Penix or a Bo Nix and still get a quarterback while building the rest of our roster. This trade offers them a lot of flexibility in the draft. That's a gnarly move they made.
The Vikings have to get across the finish line, and I'll end on this. The Vikings have to get across the finish line, but they've done themselves such a good job this offseason pivoting from, like, not that, oh boy, Kirk's gone, but okay, Kirk Cousins left. How do we pivot? Okay, let's sign Sam Darnold. We have a veteran in place for the new guy who he has to beat out. We signed 3 defensive starters. We signed a couple depth pieces. We've brought in Aaron Jones to replace Alexander Madison. That's a huge upgrade. And now they have 2 first-round picks. Now they don't have a second or a third-round pick, but doesn't matter. They have more higher-end picks to try and trade it for a quarterback. They got to get across the finish line. But I think Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has done a really good job navigating these last few weeks of free agency and the early portions of draft season. They got to finish the job. But right now they've put themselves in a very, very nice position. So
all that's left is making the right picks. And if he doesn't, he's gone anyway. So like he's putting his best foot forward to keep his job for another 3-year term or whatever.
Exactly. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Monday, March 18th.